I was genuinely worried I'm going to hate Disco Elysium. That might be a strong opening statement, but it's true. As the game came out, my Twitter feed got flooded with screenshots of the game with funny moments from it, like, say, the protagonist writing "fuck the police" on a wall, despite being a cop himself. It's no wonder these moments were chosen. They can be taken out of context and elicit a reaction without spoiling too much. Yet, I feel this is going to be the entire game. Just laugh after laugh, with no glue keeping it together. A series of pointless events that make me react in the moment, but that I will forget the second I turn my gaze away. And I can appreciate that on its own terms. I have praised River City Girls for being this exact brand of senseless not 2 weeks before I started up Disco. Yet, I have a sneaking suspicion that what I find fun and engaging in a beat-em-up would turn me away in a text-heavy RPG. Luckily, that wasn't the case. Far from it. Because in Disco Elysium, I found humanity. Now that we know what Disco Elysium isn't, perhaps it's high time to say what it is. Have you ever seen the Pixar movie Inside Out? It's a game version of that, except the protagonist is not a pre-teen girl sad about moving away from her home, but a middle-aged wreck of a human being that is supposed to be solving a homicide case but drank himself into a long-term memory loss instead. And instead of 5 basic emotions controlling you, you have all of these mind goblins, your skills. Allegedly, Studio Zaum didn't have a concept artist to portray all the skills at hand, so the job fell to the art director, who felt much more comfortable painting people than abstract concepts. Therefore, he decided to portray each skill with, well, a portrait. And so, each of them ended up becoming a personality trait of their own. The more points you have in a skill, the more useful it is, and the bigger part of your personality it becomes. For example, logic serves to draw conclusions from clues, deduce how A connects to B, all the fun Sherlock stuff.
Wait a minute, that card.
But if you min-max it as your main stat, your character is bound to be an unbearable asshole that is always right, knows that he's always right, and is extremely vulnerable to intellectual flattery. Multiply that by 24 and you have the first conflict that makes up the soul of the game, staying a well-balanced, complex person instead of a modern Simpsons character. But the conflict is so much more than that. The fictional city of Revachol is torn apart at The Sims. Occupied by Moralitern, the universe's equivalent of the United Nations, half a century after a failed communist revolution toppled its coke-addicted and incompetent monarchs. It is a city of fuck-ups, and it's up to the biggest fuck-up of them all, you, to make sense of it. And this theme of failure is ever present in the story and the world that it takes place in. You come across bankrupted businesses, abandoned hideouts full of rusting rifles, old men unable to deal with the old world collapsing, kids on speed, and other such failings, personal or otherwise, all the time. And yet, there is also this lingering feeling that no matter what, life goes on. Revachol may be suffering the political equivalent of a really long, painful hangover after doing a speedball of ideology, but it still is breathing and needs to drag itself forward. I mean, do you think that the 12-year-old boy throwing rocks at corpses cares about something that happened before even his father was born, even if it informs every single aspect of the society that he lives in? This theme is reflected in the gameplay as well. No matter how many skill checks you fail and how many times you trip over your own legs, life goes on. Well, unless you die, and it doesn't, but that's not really something with a high chance of happening. But, in general, every shot you take can be botched, and yet the game just rolls with the punch and goes on. Sometimes failure means embarrassing yourself with a stupid name, sometimes it means not realizing how perfect a wall is for graffiti. But you very quickly learn, through the game mechanics alone, that failure is hardly the end of the world. Unlike in Dark Souls, Jesus fucking Christ, my first video and I'm already comparing things to Dark Souls. My mother was right on my Unlike in Dark Souls, failure isn't there for you to learn from and eventually overcome. Failure is ever present, you will not escape it and you have to deal with it. Sometimes it can be just as interesting as success, if not more. Of course, you can hedge your bets by wearing attire that is disco enough, or following the advice of the only honest mind goblin you have, electrochemistry, and doing shitloads of drugs. But if something just doesn't pan out, well, that's life, right? Just regular old human life. But you know what is not human in this game? The characters, at least at first, because holy shit, they are such archetypes. There's the foul-mouthed kid doing drugs that pretends to be hot shit despite looking like a gremlin. There's the union leader that oozes so much sleaze that you just know the reason why he doesn't move around is because he will just slide on the floor. There are teens setting up a dance club that speak in nothing but hollow, pointless lingo that only care about monotonous electronic music and doing drugs. Hell, even the main character is not safe. During the game, you can pick up an ideology and style of your character, a la Planescape Torment. That is, your choice of dialogue options shifts your political alignment, and your brain goblins go psst, psst, hey, yeah, you, my dude, do you want to start up an ethno-state? Imagine, just you and other members of the ham sandwich race. And oftentimes, that is every time something political is touched upon by other characters or events, and trust me, that's a lot. You have to choose a side. Paraphrasing the words of the protagonist's sense of rhetoric, say one of these extremist things or fuck off. Except the choices also include the true centrist enlightenment of not having opinions on anything ever. It even nets you the best achievement in the game. Me? I became a communist because I have already read the Communist Manifesto, being a philosophy student and all. And I'm too much of a brainlet to read economy books. And Mein Kampf is way too fucking long. Have you seen that thing? Being a dickhead is too much work for me. I'll pass. But all of these are performative. Just like me showing you that I own a copy of the manifesto, like a true communism builder, despite the fact that I'm more than happy not shooting my landlord in the face. They were picked by your character on a whim, a single day when they just felt like repeating some ideological points. Hell, you can hold all of these conflicting beliefs at the same time. They are merely masks, a facade kept up so that people don't dig at the protagonist's actual issues. And why do you, as a player, keep repeating these points? Because it gives you experience, or the comfort of your enlightened superiority, or the performance. Acting according to what image of you has already been created in the minds of others is beneficial. All of this applies to the NPCs as well. They all have their own skills, though perhaps not as vocal as yours, and they all have a performative version of themselves that they maintain for first encounters with other people. As you get to meet them, it turns out that they are much better rounded than whatever caricature you got to see first. After all, why would they show a total stranger what makes them tick, what plans they have, what emotions drive them? No, it's so much easier to fall into an archetype, to present an easily digestible picture that the other person can internalize and use it as a framework. But as you get to know these characters better, those internal elements start to show. The facade never goes away because it is a part of them, but you also get to understand why they have it, what they hope to achieve, and what beliefs they hold. Some of them are simple, some are much more complex, but they are all undeniably human. For all the talk about politics, capital H history, inevitability, the capital, and another wave of ideological conflict that is bound to hit Revachol any day now, it's not those intangible abstract forces that make up all these intertwining stories. It's the people. And all these people either fucked up, got fucked up, or both. But they all moved on. Actually, no, that's a lie. There is one group that can't move on, one particular political movement that clings to the specter of past glory so hard that their fingers bleed. Wanna harbor a guess who those guys are? Let me give you a tip. It starts with F and refers to a bundle of sticks. That's right. If you are thinking of the other F word related to sticks, well, first of all, please get your shit together. Second, it's the only slur that is censored in the game. Which is honestly a bit baffling, considering there's so many other hurtful words thrown into the dialogue. A lot of them were made up for the sake of the setting, but this one gets asterisks and radio static sounds, except when it refers to a cigarette. The inconsistency honestly kinda irks me, but I'm not going to be a weirdo and shout about censorship if it made the voice actors uncomfortable or something. Back to the sticks with an axe with them, or traditionalists as the game chivos like to call them, as that term encompasses also an old monarchy soldier. They are the only group of people that don't have anything more going for them. They are either bitter and stuck idolizing colossal fuck-ups that were the previous monarchy, or one-dimensional races that just can't shut the fuck up about degeneracy, racial haplogroups, and how I'm welcome in Revachol. Motherfucker, I was born here, my parents were born here, fuck you! Even for the main character, subscribing to the fash theory does nothing but harm him. It deals you morale damage whenever you open your stupid mouth to talk about how things used to be great, and it drives you to drink more, doubling the bonuses you get from alcohol. This one thought is the definition of what you should not do if you want to get your shit together. Instead of moving on from the ruins, you throw pieces of rubble over your head and call it snow. And again, this ideology is purely performative and you can opt out of it anytime you want. But dwelling on how the city was ruined by immigrants and how it could be great again if you just changed things is an echo of the personal fuck-ups of the detective, of how his past was bright and wonderful until it all went to hell. Instead of moving on and maybe changing something, or just trying to not hurt people with your way to reserved centrism, you dwell on the past, on what was lost. Even if, after all this time, you know that maybe, perhaps, what you lost wasn't actually that great, maybe you had good reasons to do away with it. Logical assessment of the situation doesn't matter, only the pain does. And that is exactly what traditionalism does. Focus on the pain, inescapably inflicting it on others around you. It's an ideology of bitter losers, and if you want to make anything even marginally better, you can't let it get to you. And that's not even the main theme of the game. The main story of the game has fuck all to do with how much fascism sucks. It's just a side note that props up the main thesis of failure and moving on. How fucking cool is that?